moving the needle on our ambitions. That's how I understood this assignment. And drawing from my experience in the boardroom and C-suite, I knew immediately that the board has a pivotal role to play in this regard. I want to start by thanking Francis and Dale Wade and the team at Framework Consulting for the opportunity to share here at Caribbean Strategy Conference 2022. I think it's a great idea whose time has indeed come. And I hope that I will be able to drop more than a few gems that will resonate with more than a few of you. After the pandemic struck in early 2020, many companies found themselves in great disarray. We never expected it. At least most of us didn't. I remember buying into the early lead-ins by those who suggest they knew better than most. Oh, they said, by summer this will be all over. And the Caribbean won't be impacted in the same way. By the time the virus reaches us, it won't survive our temperatures. I bought it because that's what I wanted to hear. I was wrong, of course, just like many of us here probably were. So what does this have to do with strategy? And most specifically, this term I've coined, strategy-centricity. I'll get back to that. For those who don't know me, I am Cecile Watson, and I'm a governance practitioner with a goal of building better boards and building boards better. In this season, I have been working to facilitate the transformation of boards. So I support boards with board assessments, training on corporate governance, strategic retreats, and the like. I call myself the board disruptor. When I said that to a friend recently, she asked me, do you want to disrupt or bring order? And I responded to say, it's the same thing. You need to disrupt to bring order when transformation is the game plan. The needle on our ambitions. That's what we're talking about. Moving that needle. And today, I'm going to focus specifically on the untapped capabilities within the boardroom, which I suggest can be our secret weapon to breakout performance. Thank you for joining me as I share my thoughts on what it means to be a strategy-centric board, where they must play in their roles as stewards of current day organizations, not as bosses, not frustrated executives who get an opportunity to boss again, but directors with prescribed roles and responsibilities, no overreaching, just staying in their lane to serve their companies better. And I'm going to start by calling a spade a spade. We need continuous education, greater accountability, and better performance in the boardroom. Face it, most of us in the boardroom received our professional education in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. We were brilliant, ambitious, and the top of our game. The stars of tomorrow. Tomorrow is here, and the stars are dim. Yet the world has changed, and it continues to change at a rapid pace. If we're relying on what we knew back then, about our business world, how businesses work and thrive, we're fooling ourselves and we're failing in our remit as stewards of the organizations that we serve. Yet we have much to give still. We have the experience of experiencing change over and over again. And that's why I am talking about strategy centricity today, because I believe that we are to move beyond just mere survival in this era of chaos and uncertainty. We must double down on our strategic capabilities to unlock the opportunity for breakout performance that has thus far been beyond the grasp for most of us. So that takes me to my perspective on the role of the boards and the role directors need to play. If you're in the C-suite, how many of you think of your directors as jokers? A necessary evil, maybe, to fulfill compliance obligations, but getting in the way more than really contributing to your main agenda. I know that some of you do. How many executives put up with us and share as little as they need to because they don't expect that much from us, or they'd rather not attract our interference? And what we do give, they may actually have very little appetite for. How many of us are sitting bored on boards, putting up with processes that keep looking back and not forward? How many of us are managed by management and we allow it because we don't quite know where to start to ignite the change required? How many of us are being stymied by brutish behaviors that seek to extract agreement or close down dissent? I have seen much of this in my time, sitting on boards as well as as a C-suite leader. It is time for change. But all is not lost. In the work that I do training and supporting boards, I am seeing many directors steeped in the competence and yearning for the capability to be difference makers for the organizations that they serve. So my work today is pretty straightforward when I start talking about about creating value for our customers and capturing value for our stakeholders and strategic-centricity. I'm going to start by setting the context for the imperative to change. Then I will jump right in to share on where I believe boards should play in order to leverage strategic capabilities as a competitive advantage. Then I will conclude with 3 suggested talking points for you to start engaging on the principles that I will share. So this presentation is not just for the board members. I hope you do get this. The information that I will share is equally relevant for those in C-suite leadership and especially the CEOs. So let's get to it. When I think of breakout performance, the image that comes to mind is right here on the screen. Usain Bolt dominating the field at the 2008 Olympics, breaking the 100-meter world record, and shocking the world with his run of 9.69 seconds. I can still remember the energy. He dominated. He broke through his own limitations and those two of the world. He was in the lineup because he had proven that he had what it takes to win. That's capability. He obviously had a plan on how to approach the run. That's strategy. He did what he set out to do, and he did it flawlessly. That's execution. As for competitive advantage, I guess they said it was the yam. Yeah, the yam. But we know different. And the outcome of strategy meeting execution, grounded in capabilities, gave him the competitive advantage to deliver a breakout performance. My friends, these are all factors in the strategic process. So I hope you can see, as rare as it may appear, a process such as this, faithfully attended to and executed with discipline, can indeed lead to breakout performance. And my contention is that this needs to be on the radar of your board. It needs to be on the radar of all boards across the Caribbean. And it really needs to be on the radar of all boards across the world. The world is changing. When you think of your organization's performance, where are you in the pack? Competition really does look far better when you're out front. But you don't wander into first place. Your competitors won't allow it. You have to work for it. And you have to have a strategy to get there and stay there. And that's what we're talking about today. Your breakout performance, my breakout performance, You're bolt away from the pack or bolt away from the pack. So today, I am unpacking this perspective of the strategy-centric board because we need their greater capability and attention to discipline of strategy. Because strategic discipline galvanizes a company to capture more value for its shareholders by creating more value for its customers and doing it better than its competitors can. So when I think of strategy-centricity, I'm always thinking of minding the gap between strategy and execution. I am thinking about the culture of an organization that is poising itself to win, and that will unlikely happen unless you have a strategy-centric board. Because it's not just about formulating strategy, it's also about executing strategy. And overseeing the gap between strategy and execution is where the race is won or lost. That is the work of boards. That is the work of your board. So you're here because maybe you're intrigued by the topic, although you have never thought of strategy centricity as a real thing. Maybe you want to tap into new ideas that may be able to move the needle for you and your business. Because you want to be part of a winning team, perhaps. Maybe you're lucky to be part of a board or management team that is forward-thinking, innovative, with a drive to move that needle on your business results. And you really want to know what your competitors are likely to be hearing because you intend to stay ahead of the pack. But maybe you're none of those things. Maybe you're just intrigued and wondering, where's she coming with now? You know what I think? I think that you're here because you're one of those high performance-minded leaders. A leader who wants results. It's what your brand represents. Winning is what you do. And being part of a complex system heavily steeped in traditions, egos, and sacred norms is really not doing it for you. Maybe like me, maybe you want to be a disruptor too. So let me share how I see strategic centricity making a difference. These insights are based on personal experience and hours and hours and hours thinking and researching on why we don't always get the results we want in business. Join me in examining these statistics that you see here. These statistics relate to a 2013 global survey reported on by Harvard Business Review. I dare say that they are likely to be sufficiently representative of where we are today in the Caribbean and to be relevant for contextualizing the change required. So get this. 85% of executive leadership teams spend less than 1 hour discussing strategy. What's your number? 50% spend no time at all. What's your number? 95% of company employees don't understand the company's strategy. What is your number? And 90% of businesses fail to meet their strategic targets. What's your number? That, in my mind, says there may be lots of low-hanging fruit we're not picking. Think about it. Are you now doing all that you can, all that you should be doing to move the needle, to close the gap on your ambitions? That now takes us into where to play. We all know and understand that the pre-pandemic world is gone for good. Vulnerabilities to health, economic and environmental crises were some of the key points cited by PwC in its report on Caribbean Governance Survey 2022. By the way, if you have not seen that report, it's a good idea to find it. It makes for a good read. First-hand impact of climate change, hurricanes, sargassum, water shortages, these are all realities for us in the Caribbean. Cancel culture, broader and engaged stakeholders, shifting consumer preferences. We all know those who are now more socially and environmentally conscious, don't we? We see advocacy towards ESG because we're no longer talking about governance on its own. We're also coupling that with the environmental and social aspects. Talent shortages. 70% of directors who participated in a 2022 Governance Outlook survey administered by the National Association of Corporate Directors felt that the competition for talent was likely to be the top concerning trend in 2022, not cybersecurity. Talent. There's also increasing interest by the investor population in triple bottom line performance. That's going to have an impact on access to capital. We have global IFRS standards for ESG to be implemented. And I could go on and on and on. But I think you get the point. The time is now for boards to consider where they must play. But the work is not solely that of the board. You will see that what Peter Drucker said here. The effective functioning of the corporate board is the responsibility of the chief staff person. That's you, Ms. CEO. That's you, Mr. CEO. And you can't just tell the board to perform. That may be what we used to call a career limiting move. I don't know if we use that term anymore, but it could be. A CEO has to see that having a healthy and engaging relationship with the board is very much a part of their role. Now, I don't want you to forget this point because the change you most need will most likely need to be initiated by the CEO. So as we talk about where to play, I won't spend much time here, but it's not always clear how boards see their work. So I'm simplifying it here into what I call the trinity of boardroom engagement. I give a deeper dive into that in my workshops where I focus on building competent, accountable, and performing directors. But suffice it to say at this time that there are three key spaces that the work of boards typically cover. Governance and compliance are foundational, and these are implied in the interest of creating value for customers and capturing value for investors. You hear me saying that over and over again, because that's why we have companies. That's fundamentally the work we do. And that work describes the objective of performing. And that is the work of strategy. So as we talk about performance and where to play, that takes us to the roles in strategy. It is very important that as the work is done, we remain in alignment with the role focus so that we can do our best to eliminate blind spots and aspire for the best outcomes. When I was in banking, we used to talk about checking the checker. And the person who is doing can't be the one who's checking. You'll miss things. And so staying in your lane is very important. I want to draw us back a bit to refocus on competitive advantage. Though, the yam in the Usain Bolt story. Here you can see from this definition that competitive advantage is that condition or circumstance that puts a company in a favorable or superior business position. It's a coming together of the capability of your people, the organization, and your choice of strategic direction. Usain never fared so well when he turned to football. Wrong strategic direction. Of course, he's a natural athlete. He had the capability on the track, but it was not transferable in the short haul to a football field that would allow him to stand out from others when he was competing for his space on the field. There's no question he had capability, but it just was not for that particular direction. Doesn't mean that given sufficient time at it, he wouldn't have honed that capability and won at that level too. But inevitably, it requires constant and consistent utilization of your competencies and capabilities to truly break out from the pack. And I share this to make the point that breakout performance cannot exist without competitive advantage. And the weapons of competitive advantage are grounded in your competencies, capabilities, and the utilization of your organization and its people. And the board happens to be one of your people groups, and it is an untapped weapon in that regard. I developed this little framework here, which is the foundation of my Boardroom Navigator course. The focus of it is to walk high-performance-minded leaders through a blueprint that will empower them to be confident, capable, and credible in the boardroom. Through that, you will be better positioned to be utilized in the work of transforming the results of your organization. You will be better ready to engage, ready to perform, and ready to influence. I'm going to stick a pin here, as they say in Jamaica. I know that there are many directors out there think I'm busy already doing board work. What I'm saying, though, is we need to be doing the right work for the board. So I want you to contextualize all of what I'm saying from the perspective, are we in fact doing the right work? Are we spending our time on the things that really matter? So that takes me to the core capabilities that I believe the board needs to manifest as part of the strategy-centric mission. We need directors who are results-oriented. Without that and the accountability that comes with it, we won't move the needle. We need independent-minded directors in the boardroom. It's diversity of thought and transparency that will contribute to removing blind spots and holding each other to account that will cause us to raise the bar and do better. We need our strategic orientation. We need your strategic orientation. You won't become a strategy-centric board if you don't understand strategy and the importance of not only formulating it, but also closing the gap between strategy and execution. If you are currently in a situation now where strategy feels like an imposition, it's because you're doing it wrong. You are not getting the results from the time you're spending, so you believe it is a waste of time. And that needs to be disrupted. We also need your intelligence. You came to the boardroom from a different environment. You were appointed because someone believed you had value to offer to the company. You're equipped with knowledge, experience, and connections that can make a difference to the play. That should be accessible as the vision is set and strategic priorities are formulated, and as you revisit and review where you are and change and adapt to what is happening in the world around you. And lastly, we need shapers. Now you may ask, what exactly are those? We really need persons who are not stuck in the past and want to keep things the old way. I think immediately of the whole board portals, using electronic ways to manage our board meetings. In the beginning, they were quite clunky, but if you look at what's available now, they make your work so much easier. We need directors who are keen to skate to where the puck will land. This is an era which requires directors to be innovative, adaptable, and agile, and keen to influence the company with those characteristics too. So if you look at strategy as it is practiced by most organizations today, I think we will all be comfortable with this model here on the screen. Without the benefit of empirical evidence, my experience says that most companies are pretty au fait with the strategic planning process, which covers the categories within the gray box: vision statement, strategy and related tactics, then the execution, KPIs, balanced scorecard, All that comes in there. The areas, though, which we often overlook is how we plan to win, the strategy of strategy, and how to effectively apply strategy oversight to the process of delivering results. I've created a framework for that, which I'm calling Scale Factor. It really is part of the Boardroom Navigator program, but I'll be offering it in advance as a separate masterclass for directors and senior leaders who want to explore new ways to provide effective strategy oversight. So we're on this home stretch, wrapping up with a few key talking points that I recommend for boards and C-suite leaders who believe breakout performance is worthy of aspiring towards. Hear me now. Organization success for organizations today and in the future is strategy-centric. So if you think I've made any sense today on this point, here are some key talking points for you to consider as well. How are you going to get your board and C-suite leaders on the same page with your role and purpose in strategy? That requires some thinking. Can you achieve breakthrough or breakout performance without disrupting your board culture? Is your board devoting the attention it needs to strategy? Does it know what progress they expect and by when? And what it should be inspecting to confirm where you are? Does the dashboard that they receive, because I know invariably they're out there, does it really represent what it takes to stay ahead of the pack? These are all important questions that need to be considered. Now, I started this presentation with the story of Bolt to the world stage with his 100-meter dash. That was 2008. Bolt went on to better that 9.69 second run, clocking 9.58 seconds to break the world record at the Berlin World Championship in 2009. 13 years later, the record is unbeaten. Bolt dominated, not through perfection. It's a little known fact, but he won the 2008 Olympic record with an untied shoelace, as you will see here. Why do I share this? You don't have to be perfect to win, but if you're capable and you have the will to win, a good strategy, and the ability to execute, those of themselves are sufficient to give you the competitive advantage that will cause you to stay ahead of the pack. Of course, I'm talking in the context where you're appropriately capitalized and the such. So that's it from me for today. I have given you context for the imperative to change. I also shared with you where boards should play if they are to be part of the strategy-centric movement. And I left you with 3 key talking points for you to start exploring how to make sense of all this. The conversation on the strategy-centric board, the secret weapon to breakout performance, just got started. But before I go, I promised to share how my reference to the pandemic was related to strategy-centricity. In those early days of the pandemic, as companies found themselves facing an existential crisis, I remember asking quite a few leaders, C-suite and board, did your SWOT analysis identify the possibility of a pandemic? Most people said no. It was unpredictable. We all know those stories of the hurricanes, earthquakes, and floods that aren't planned for year after year. And having had that oversight, we've seen companies thrown into crisis management around an event that should have been foreseen. But unlike those occurrences, the pandemic is truly deserving to be considered as an unforeseen. It created chaos, uncertainty. It disrupted our lives. It was unpredictable. Now, if it was on your SWOT as a threat, no doubt your strategies would have taken you into consider considering work from home, digitization, crisis management, workers' mental health, and such like. But without building capability to predict the unforeseen, we are leaving ourselves open to all means of highly impactful threats to our livelihood in this era. So how do you plan for the unforeseen though? The unpredictable? Where is the next one? And what will it be? Where will it strike? There's really no way to know. But the message I want to impress on you is that the strategic process should be designed to give us thinking time on matters such as these. It deserves to be treated with respect. It's not a checklist item dealt with flippantly, because if we spend the time and it's not integrated into our decision-making process, we may as well have saved ourselves the botheration. Strategy, as you know, is about choices. It has as much to do with what you will do as what you won't do. It needs a disciplined process and a right fit process too. And I have proposed one in the scale factor. We must stop investing our time and our brains to this work that must be done. It's essential work for sure. But then we fret it away by how we manage and oversee the business. Not everyone, but some of us do. I've seen it. In this season of rapid change, we need all hands on deck. We need to be rowing in the same direction. We need our leaders to be better stewards, creating better value for our customers and capturing better value for our investors. And we need to be doing it better than our competitors. So there you have it. My take on the imperative to transform our boardrooms into strategy-centric environments. I love to hear what you think about this. Thank you for listening and staying until the end. It was my pleasure and privilege to offer you these insights. And before you go, I have a few giveaways for you. As seen here, I represent New Zealand-based Board Pro through my company Shredwiz Limited. Board Pro offers a board portal which is right fit for Caribbean businesses. It's effortless access to your board pack, and it makes the process of engaging so easy because it's easier to set agendas, voting on motions is easier, storing and retrieving of documents, being able to search your board pack. You remember something but can't quite find it, it's there. And I know that those of you who prepare board packs will love how much less time consuming, less costly, and more efficient the process of getting board packs out will be. And I'm offering you this at 30% off your first year membership if you sign up for a 30-day trial by July 2nd. That takes me to Scale Factor. Spoke about it before. I have a giveaway there for you too. It is in 90 minutes masterclass, especially created for senior leaders and directors who want to start building strategy-centricity into their operations. I'm offering 22% off for the first 22 persons registered using the CaribStrat code. All others will receive 10% off if you register before July 2nd. So remember to access those offers. There you get them available at buildeffectiveboards.com/scale-factor and buildeffectiveboards.com/boardpro. So that's it from me. Again, it was my pleasure to be here with you. And remember, I'm social. You'll find me at What's So Cess on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. I am Cecile, your governance practitioner, the boardroom disruptor, advocating for building better boards and building boards better. Best always. Until next time.